Welcome to another edition of Biblical Errancy Commentary, the series that takes a critical look at Scripture, pointing out its numerous errors, contradictions, and fallacies. This program teaches a kind of Sunday school in reverse by giving you the biblical information that you should have heard but didn't. With millions of Americans hearing a totally one-sided presentation of the Bible, balance is greatly needed. Only when people are given both sides of an issue can a truly objective analysis be possible. And here to provide the alternative perspective is the editor of Biblical Errancy newsletter, Mr. Dennis McKenzie.
Welcome to the 41st edition of Biblical Errancy Commentary. We're pleased you've joined us. This program is the fourth in our series on the biblical treatment of rewards, punishment, and justice. So far, we've discussed original sin, evil, suffering, the atonement, the innocent, heaven, and exclusivism. We can now discuss another subject with problems and injustices: hell. There's probably no Christian concept upon which more ridicule and scorn have been leveled than that of hell. Even within the Christian community itself, many have deemed the idea of eternal punishment to be beyond the pale of a just and good God. Unfortunately for them, the concept is quite sustainable biblically, and belief in its existence is required of all true Christians. Once having realized that hell is a valid biblical concept, two major difficulties face the true believer. First, regardless of how many evil deeds one may have committed in this world, the number is limited. There's only so much you can do within a lifespan of 90 or 100 years. Thus, since the number of your deeds is finite, how can God be just if eternal punishment is assigned? While confronting this very criticism, apologist Charles Ryrie provided the following subterfuge on page 521 in his book entitled Basic Theology. He's a theology professor. Quote, "Others argue that a just God would not give infinite punishment for finite sin. But this ignores that important principle that crime depends on the object against whom it is committed, in this case an infinite God. Striking a post is not as culpable an act as striking a human being. All sin is ultimately directed against an infinite God and deserves infinite punishment." Unquote. What kind of justice is this? One might just as well say that killing the king should be punished far more severely than killing a homeless person. In any system of justice worthy of the name, the nature of the act is of far greater importance than the nature of the person against whom the act is committed. Talk about partiality. This explanation is the very essence of favoritism and special treatment. God was not the victim any more than those living in Japan are the victims of a murder committed in New York. God may have been offended, but he wasn't the victim. And Ryrie's final comment is preposterous. If all sin deserves infinite punishment, then someone who did nothing more than steal a pencil or lie about a school grade in this lifetime in his earthly career would warrant eternal punishment. If that's justice, then the word justice has no relevance and should be expunged from the dictionary. The second major problem associated with the concept of hell has to do with whether all punishments in hell are of equal severity or do they vary in intensity. For all punishments to be equal would be as unjust as having equal rewards in heaven. some people deserve far more than others in both rewards and punishments. On the other hand, if punishments differ in severity, then the fires torturing some must be far hotter than those afflicting others. On page 178 in the book entitled 508 Answers to Bible Questions, apologist DeHaan is asked if all the unsaved will receive identical punishments, or will there be degrees of punishment? In response, he says, quote, "Concerning the unsaved receiving the same punishment, the Bible plainly teaches that there will be degrees of punishment depending upon the light which men and women have had and rejected while here on the earth." And then he cites Luke 12:47-48 and Revelations 20:12-13 to prove his point, unquote. 4 pages earlier he stated, quote, "There will be as many degrees of punishment in hell as there will be degrees of reward in heaven," unquote. In the same vein, apologists Morris and Clark say on page 317 in their work entitled "The Bible Has the Answer," quote, "There will be degrees of punishment in hell graded in accordance with the individual's degree of guilt. And just as there are degrees of punishment in hell, so there are degrees of reward in heaven," unquote. When asked the same question, apologist John R. Rice, he's the one I mentioned earlier, is the teacher of Jerry Falwell, John R. Rice says the following on page 18 in his book entitled, "Dr. Rice, here is my question.